today has its own character, right? And every moment is new, right? Reality is the one. It's one Eros, it's one love, it's one heart, it's one field, it's the many, diversity, individuation, uniqueness. And reality is the creative advance, synergy and emergence, we said yesterday. The creative advance of new Eros, new configurations of intimacy. And so this moment will never come again. This moment's an infinite moment, which will never happen again. And we can't do in this moment invites us inside, right? And so you can feel when a moment opens. So for example, just so you can just feel this in your first person, because we're about to dive like deep in, right? So just remember yesterday. So yesterday, we did the kind of the prayer, right? Foreigner, we borrowed their song as a prayer for a decade. And we finished and it was fine. It was fine, right? It was fine. Right? Everyone got it? It was fine. Great. But actually, the moment wasn't opened. And you could feel, right? In the Tao, the moment was actually somehow, it was wanting to open. Right? And you could feel the moment saying to us, open me, right? Love me open. Touch me there. Not like that. Right? Open me. And so we stopped together and we opened it together. Right? And I'm like, wow. Right? And then it was open. Right? Who could feel the difference between 1 and 2? Absolutely. 1,000%. Right? Helm Hadar Sharon, you couldn't feel the difference? You're just too lazy to raise your hand, you bum. Okay? Right? Stay with me, right? All right, raise your hand. Don't rely on everyone else to do it. We can't do it without you. Okay? So I'm going to say it again. Right? Remember, it's ours to do. Who could feel the difference between 1 and 2? Right? We all could. Right? We all could. Like, wow. So you know that. You can feel it. Right? It's real. So we're now in day 4, and I want to, with permission, kind of throw in a kind of core distinction that we've worked with over a decade. Spend just a minute or two on it. 3, and that'll open the space for us, I hope. So the distinction is between the Garden of Eden, the exile from Eden, and the return to Eden. Now, stay close for a second, okay? Right? Because it's going to be and we're going completely personal today. So I hope everyone has paper. Right? And at some point in the not too distant future, in the next X amount of minutes, we're going to break up the room in a different way, okay? Right? If it wasn't done before, let's just not do it now. We'll wait till the break, okay? Or we'll break up the room in a slightly different way. And then the entire rest of the morning is essentially going to be an exercise. So it's a completely different morning than all the mornings we've had. We're in a new place. And we're going to go for a rough ride down a rapid-shoaled, right, currented river. Okay? Yes. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Trepidatious. Yeah. Scary, yeah, and exciting, okay? Hope you have insurance, okay? So to find our way into that river, which is going to be, and this is our whole universal love story, reality, the amorous cosmos, the intimate universe that lives in us. We live in the intimate universe that lives in us, the cosmo-erotic universe, evolution, the love story of the universe, all the ways we say it, okay? So the phrase, right, the terminus technus, right, in the lineages for that, east of Eden, wrote John Steinbeck, right, is Eden. Right? Eden is the love story. You got it. It was heteronormative. So you had a naked man and a naked woman. I'm not responsible for that. I didn't write the book, but, that's what you had. Okay, so relax, everybody, right? So there they were. There was a snake. The snake was kind of hot. Snake tried to seduce Eve. A lot of desire moving around. Didn't quite work out. They got thrown out of the garden, right? And humanity started. Brief recapitulation of the story. Okay? Now, that's a big story. That's an iconic story. That's an iconic Western story. Now, here's the crazy thing in this love story. So in Eden, where the snake was, now could we just get the snake in the room? Let's get a little hissing. Shh. Now notice the part of you that's not hissing. Those of you who were afraid to hiss. That's going to be our topic this morning. Okay, so just notice that for a second. They're going to notice a lot of things today. Noticing is going to be a big deal. Those who don't hiss in public, just pay attention. We're going to be gathering lots of weird information. Okay? Why don't I hiss in public? Well, I'm not saying you should, but just notice who hissed in public and who didn't, and why and how'd you hiss. You actually got kind of your whole story's there. My whole story's there. Okay? But just stay close. So you got the snake, desire dude, or dudette, non-heteronormative version of the story, right? They get exiled, and then the whole of humanity is about coming back to Eden. So when they're in Eden the first time, they think, wow, there's no shame. Vayushneam arumim v'lo yitbosheshu. They were in their nakedness, and shame never even occurred to them. And then they're ejected from Eden, right? Eject, bomb, right? It's a new version of the Bible, right? 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 And there they are. And they're filled with shame. Which means that to get back to Eden is to somehow end the trance of shame. What does that mean? So in other words, the love story of the universe is intimately connected with shame in our relationship to it. So that's wild. So that's not a psychological structure. Right? That's a core structure of reality. And often when you hear shame, you're like, I'm out of here. I'm not doing that. That's hard. Right? But it is hard. It's a big deal, shame. And you can't actually engage in the love story of the universe without engaging shame. Because shame blocks Eros. Shame blocks Eros. Always. Now, let's call Eden, if we can, the pre-tragic. Eden is pre-tragic. It's sexuality pre-tragic. It's life pre-tragic. Let's call the exile from Eden, meaning where we live, right? Except for in this beautiful place, which is Eden, right? But people are not living here all the time, and I understand there's a group of people actually live here, so they get to live in this at least the space of Eden, right? But those of us who are exiled from Eden, and no one's excluded, actually, right? We're in the tragic. The return to Eden, though, is not a regressive move to the pre-tragic, which is generally the move we try and make, but it's a move to the post-tragic. Right? I like to call it the post-tragic. And the post-tragic and the pre-tragic are not the same place. Right? So I'll just give it to you just for a second, not in terms of sexuality or eros, just in terms of how the world kind of just works in general. So in classical religion, and I have, he's in a different dimension of reality now, but I had a little brother who I've mentioned before, was killed a bunch of years ago in 2015 in a car accident. And he was a completely lovely young man. And he married actually my assistant, right, Miriam, right? And they had 10 kids. They have 10 kids, right, who are all now having kids, right? And so there's this huge clan. My other brother, by the way, has 8 kids, right? And so there's lots of these people running around, right? And they're beautiful. And so David marries Miriam. They don't mention to me that they're going out because they thought that I might have had something to say about that, so they removed me from the scene. So many, many decades ago, right? And then they told me, like, we're getting engaged tomorrow. I said, fantastic, because there was really nothing else to say at that point, right? And they were fantastic. They're beautiful people. And they chose, right? A very particular kind of, they took the world I grew up in, which was a highly orthodox world, and they exponentialized it. And whenever something would happen in the world, and my brother, right, there were thousands and thousands of people at his funeral. And his funeral was a mixture of two things. It was both the tragedy of him, and it was also the Orthodox community saying, oh, this is the brother who went good, and the other one became Darth Vader, right? Isn't that a shame, right? And which is how it goes. It's okay. And actually, it was very funny at his wedding, at his funeral, right? I was sitting next to my mother, and the whole bunch of us were going to give eulogies. But since I was, considered and am considered a heretic, in that world, right? The very, very politely, the person, was kind of running this, and it was my brother just was, oh, we're so sorry, we're out of time for your eulogy, right? So it was like, okay, right? So the message clear, right? So my brother, who's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful man, anytime something would happen in the world, any tragedy, he would have a verse to explain it. He would say, oh, that's this verse, right? Or that's this text, or that's right. And everything was clear. Everything was clear. There was nothing out of place in the world. The world was crystal clear. That's pretty tragic. And I got to tell you, it's a beautiful place to live. Right? Right? In other words, you're so in the certainty that you've removed the uncertainty. There's no longer a mystery, right? There's text for everything. And then you get ejected, as I got ejected from that world, because this doesn't work. For this reason, and that reason, and that reason, and that reason, and then you're in the tragic. Whoa! You're in the tragic. Now, it's tempting to go back to the pre-tragic all the time. I miss the pre-tragic all the time. I miss it dearly. Right? It's a beautiful place to live, I got to tell you. Right? And it's rich. And it's not superficial. There's a depth of text and a depth of practice and a depth of sexuality, right? And a depth of lots of things in that pre-tragic world. It's a beautiful world. There's a reason why 60 to 70% of the world still affiliates and aligns with the traditional religion. And those of us in kind of other pockets of the world who think we're going to heal the source code and not engage that, right, are narcissistically self-absorbed and not in a good way. We need to engage that in a very deep and profound way, and we need to understand those texts and live in them and breathe them. But post-tragic is, can I actually move beyond the postmodern uncertainty, actually reweave a new story of cosmos, actually integrating the orienting certainties that we have from all domains, weaving them into a new story that holds the mystery at the same time. Right? That's the post-tragic. Right? That's post-tragic. So you feel that? You feel the difference? Eden, exile from Eden, right? Return to Eden. Now, when I return to Eden, Yeats, right, the poet writes, he says, when such as I cast out remorse. I cast out remorse, which means the tragic. Remorse is the bitterness of the tragic. When such as I cast out remorse, so great a sweetness. Remember the word sweetness from the movie 2 days ago? That's it. So great a sweetness fills my breast. We can dance and we can sing. We're blessed by everything, and everything we look upon is blessed. You get that's not the blessing of the pre-tragic. Did you get that? Right? It's the blessedness of all things. Right? It's the amorous cosmos from which, in whose ground we stand to engage existential risk. When such as I cast out remorse, so great a sweetness fills my breast. We can dance and we can sing. We're blessed by everything, and everything we look upon is blessed. But to get to the post-tragic, we have to go through the door of shame. You can't engage, we can't engage, right, the universal love story without in some genuine and real way going through the door of shame. So who's up for it? You up to play?